You've got the trade groups lined up. Okay, you've got an issue that apparently everybody likes. Okay, and it's not going to do the consumers any harm. You've got everything. Talk about the parliamentary aspect of this. What you don't have, it seems to me, what you don't have on your side is you don't have time on your side.
Well, that's very true.
Okay, so what are the parliamentary, machinations that they have to go through, and how long do they have to do that to get this bill through?
This year?
Yeah.
I mean, this year the clock is ticking pretty rapidly here. I think this year this thing would have to be all buttoned up within the next three or 4 weeks. After that, it becomes far more problematic. And once they go out on July recess, the July 4th recess, they're back for maybe a couple of weeks. Then it's August recess, and then you're just right in the middle of all the election stuff, pre-election.
The more co-sponsors we get in the coming weeks may send a signal to the leadership of the House that they could bring this bill directly to the floor and vote on it, and then bring it to the Senate. Now, it's a rosy projection, possibly. That's best case scenario, and we'll have to see. We should know here in the next few weeks.
I mean, if that were to happen, it could take place by voice vote. You wouldn't have to go through the whole formal process. You probably would be able to skip hearing and that kind of thing. But if there's any pushback, that would probably.
So that's exactly how the TANF ATM blocking provision was brought to the floor in February. That was a bill by Congressman Boustany of Louisiana to have welfare cards blocked at ATMs located in liquor stores, casinos, and adult establishments. That was brought straight to the floor, bypassed the Ways and Means Committee, and was voted on, and then eventually got incorporated in the middle income tax legislation that President Obama signed into law in late February.
So and it is a nice segue, so let's go there now. That law's baked, it's done. Department of Health and Human Services is writing regulations to implement that law. As I understand it, they have to do that because the original TANF law required that if there's money involved in sanctions, then there have to be written regulations for the states to react against. Where do you guys stand on the regulations? What are we looking to do there?
Well, we've been working pretty closely with HHS on this to just to try to give them a sense of what are some of the operational challenges that are going to be existent in implementing the law. We put together a task force comprised of folks involved in this EBT space, states, processors, financial institutions, to name a few, and they've given us recommendations. We are going to we'll respond to their request for comment on this. The task force recommendations will inform our response to that letter. Our response to that comment, that request for comment, and we'll go from there. We'll point out the challenges that are faced, and on the face of it, it seems like a great idea, right? I mean, who can be against that? You don't want to see, scarce resources, squandered, or done in a kind of a frivolous manner, But like we know, things they're oftentimes more complex than they seem, and I think this is a case of that. And we will let HHS know, where those complexities lie.
And we sponsored a webinar. The EFTA sponsored a webinar, and we had 80-some, a lot of state EBT directors participating that listened in on that webinar, going through what the law says, what HHS, what's on their mind in their comment, and what operational challenges they will face in the next 2 years to implement this provision.
That's a really good point. I think what gives us added credibility here as an association is we have a number of the states in our membership, and the states have really been instrumental in helping us come up with our response to HHS for this.
So, to summarize, EFTA's role in this particular issue is more one of education and outreach and trying to get everybody on the same page to understand how these systems work and what's possible and what's not possible.
Well said.
It's certainly not to let endemic fraud in the system go on.
Right. Look, the law is the law, and we're working to how we best implement the law is really is our goal here.
Okay.
It's the goal of the coalition that we put together.
Let's move along. Overdraft protection. What are you doing on that? Where does that stand?
We're working with the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. They put out a notice for comment on some proposals that would make consumers be able to understand the overdraft plans that banks are offering and what possible smart disclosures, you will, consumers may get at an ATM or point of sale terminal. And CFPB is reaching out to organizations such as the EFTA to better understand, again, the operational challenges it may take when networks got to talk to one another, and that is ongoing.
It is, as Dennis mentioned, we are working with CFPB on this. We put together yet another task force to address this, to help us again inform our response to this with the CFPB on this matter. It's really a question of, as Dennis mentioned, allowing the consumer to better understand what choices he or she has when they are faced with an overdraft situation. You're going to get charged this. Is that okay? And then that's up to the consumer to make the choice that's best for them.
Is that similar to we're going to charge you a $2 surcharge to get your money out of this machine?
I think there's some similarities there. I think it's just a question of when. There's plenty of upfront disclosure. The consumer now has to opt into an overdraft an overdraft protection service from their FI. That was not the case in the past, but it is now the case. And before they opt in, they have a number of disclosures that they're supposed to read, but how the disclosures are sometimes.
Are there any technical implications here?
Oh, sure.
Is this even possible? Or
sure. Some banks are already, some financial institutions are already incorporating some of these things into their into their policies. Some of them are sending text alerts, for example. Again, you're making good use of technology. Everybody has a cell phone, and perhaps if you could alert the consumer via their text that they may be facing an overdraft situation, that might be one way to address it.
Is that something CFPB would buy into? You think?
Time will tell.
We have to see. I think we need a better understanding right now of what kind of challenges there are in that kind. What, if any, kind of operational challenges, technical challenges there are in implementing that kind of a program? Would that be better than some kind of alert at the ATM, on the at the POS, those kinds of things? I think they're looking at a host of things at the CFPB, and our goal is to work with them to help find out what is the most appropriate one and most effective, and from both a consumer standpoint and from an operational standpoint, from a technical standpoint on the back end.
Real quickly, cybersecurity.
It's probably an issue that's going to be very difficult for Congress to agree on one approach for companies to guard against cyber attacks. It is a problem, everyone acknowledges that, but what is the solution? Is the solution having the Department of Homeland Security dictate cybersecurity policy to private corporations? Is it greater information sharing between the public and the private sector in the event of a cyber attack to share critical information? That's the approach that the EFTA believes in, and that is incorporated in a bill that the House did pass about last month called the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Protection Act, CISPA. The Senate is taking the approach of more government mandating cybersecurity policy. It's going to be very difficult in the short legislative weeks left this year to reconcile those two positions.
They're very different positions.
You guys are practicing for Broadway this year.
To see if the show will play in the
next.
Yeah, I think next year. Yeah. I think next year, you'll see hearings, further hearings on the differing approaches, and then we'll have to, and a lot of it, I think, like most things now, will depend on what happens in the November elections.
It just seems to me that's an issue that's going to be making a lot of trips up there, I'm going to think.
I think us and lots of other folks as well. We signed, to that point, we signed on to an industry letter, another coalition letter, to which we were signatories, along with American Bankers Association, Clearinghouse, just a couple off the top of my head, but a number of the financial institution, trade association. We signed on to that letter, favoring the approach that Dennis referenced, that rather than having Homeland Security, having one agency sit over the whole thing, I think we prefer a different approach.
Yes.
Okay. Again, we get back to the issue of time. I mean, we're at the 2-minute warning here. I guess in legislative time, we have 2 minutes left. The reality is, what, like 5-6 weeks maybe?
Yeah,
of actual legislative activity, if anybody wants to do anything.
I think so. We mentioned, you we got Memorial Day coming up, so we'll be out on recess for Memorial Day. We got then we have July 4th recess, and then you have August recess. I mean, after
that gets into September. What are we going to be talking about in September? What do you have going?
Well,
nothing.
There's a great segue.
What's the discussion going to look like?
There's a segue.
Yeah. I mean, the real issue could be what could be done at a lame duck session of Congress. No one knows at this point. But I think in September, when all the EFTA councils are meeting here in Washington the last week of September, we hope to have some maybe a clearer view on that.
And one of the ways we might be able to get that clearer view is our keynote speaker at that event in September is noted political prognosticator Charlie Cook, who's really quite a renowned.
I thought you were the political prognosticator.
Yeah, but I'm a lot more partisan than he is. He's got a reputation for being nonpartisan. His issue is he just wants to be right. And
well, who doesn't?
Yeah, well, but he has
more empirical.
Yeah, he has the data to back it up, rather than just me just spouting off. I mean, he has data to back it up. So I'm looking forward to that September meeting because I'm hoping that he can give us some insights into how this and the whole thing, not just the presidential election, but the House and Senate, because it all it all comes back to this. It all impacts the issues that we've discussed today. And so I'm hoping that 6 weeks ahead of that election, Charlie Cook will be able to help us out, and maybe provide us with a little insight there.
Well, time will tell.
Indeed.
Unfortunately, time is something we don't have a whole lot of, and they're not making any more of it.
Tempest fugit.
Kurt Hellwig, Dennis Ambach, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks.